Hello, I'm Dr. David Clark, board-certified internist and gastroenterologist and president of the Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms. And today we're going to look at a video that makes me laugh, it makes me sad, it makes me angry, it makes me all three at the same time, and maybe it will do one or more of those to you as well. But regardless of how it makes you feel, we're going to use it to help educate you about some of the treatments that are available out there for chronic pain that, as we'll see, may or may not have any value, but it's important to know how to evaluate them and assess their credentials, assess whether they have evidence behind them that can improve your pain or not. So we're going to start with the one on the screen here today, and this man is actually a physician, and he should know better than to walk like this to simulate somebody who's in chronic pain, because first of all, people in chronic pain, especially back pain, they tend not to want to move very much at all. They also tend not to flex their spine the way he is doing, and they almost never grab their chest at the same time as they're examining or feeling their own back. But that's just the start. The words on the screen are also worth paying attention to, where it says, "Doctors don't want you to know about this device," because he's going to try to sell you a device that purportedly can alleviate your back pain. And right away, I'm suspicious, because we doctors, if we have something that's effective and the treatment will benefit you for a long period of time and the side effects are minimal or at least acceptable, then we absolutely do want you to know about this device. That's why we're in the business of being physicians. We want to heal people. We love to see people's pain alleviated. This is why we went into the business in the first place. And if we have any form of treatment, whether it's a supplement or a pharmaceutical or a manual treatment or a device or an invasive treatment or a surgery, then we want to spread the news about that to the world. If I had something like that, and in fact, I actually do, and we'll talk about that later, but if I had a device, say, I would first test it carefully, scientifically, against a large enough group of patients, 50, 100 or more, and compare that with a similar device that is inactive. And that's what we call a control group or a placebo, where the device is very similar as far as the patient is concerned, but doesn't have the active treatment involved. And if we had something that was clearly superior to a comparison group, a control group, a placebo group, and was dramatically effective in alleviating pain, we would do that study and publish it in a prestigious journal, because we would do the study very carefully, making sure that our comparison group was highly comparable to the group we were using our device on. And if we saw dramatically better pain relief with our device compared to the sham device or the control device, we would be shouting that from the rooftop. We would want everybody to know. It would be in prestigious journal because of its importance. It would get remarkable attention from healthcare journalists. It would be published not only in editorials in medical journals that are widely read, but also in the popular press for the lay public. And soon everybody would know about this. It would be getting used. People would tell their neighbors about it. And before long, it would become a standard part of pain management. It would absolutely not be something we would try to keep from the public. But let's go on with this short video and see what else it says. This could destroy the $100 billion back pain industry. Well, why do we have a $100 billion back pain industry? It's in part because of the number of people that are suffering from this condition and how long that pain tends to go on. But it's also because of the number of different treatments that have been applied to it. And as I said, supplements, pharmaceuticals, manual treatments, invasive treatments, devices, surgery, all of which tend to be expensive, but most of which turn out not to have much more than a placebo or control group value. So people don't get dramatically better. So they keep looking for new devices or surgeries or supplements or manual treatments, and that just simply drives up the cost. And the reason these treatments tend not to work very well is that the majority of back pain, 88% in fact, according to a recent study, is not because of structural damage to the back. It's actually generated by the brain. And the brain can generate pain or illness, for that matter, anywhere in the body. But it turns out that the spine is one of the more common places that is impacted. So if your treatment is focused on the structure of the spine, it's not going to help you if you are one of the 88% whose pain is generated by the brain. But again, this is also evidence that if we had an effective treatment, which we do, and I will get to that later, that we would be shouting it from the rooftops, because we could divert even a fraction of this $100 billion toward this effective treatment. Everybody would benefit. And there is nothing that we physicians would like better than to reduce the cost of healthcare for millions of suffering patients so that that money can be used in more effective ways. All right, let's continue.
It's called PEMF, or pulsed electromagnetic radiation.
Pulsed electromagnetic radiation is not the correct term for this device. As he said, the device is PEMF, which is pulsed electromagnetic field. There's no radiation involved in this form of treatment. So pulsed electromagnetic field, you would expect that a physician would know that there was no radiation involved in this device. But the pulsed electromagnetic field has actually been tested in controlled research trials, and most of those trials have found that this device is not very effective. There was one trial that was done at a clinic in Egypt that was published in a Brazilian journal that found that when they combined this device with physical therapy for people with chronic back pain, that the pain was reduced by about 30%. But of course, they had a control group where they used a sham device that did not produce an electromagnetic field. That was combined with the physical therapy also. And in that group, getting the sham treatment, not the real treatment, their pain scores decreased by 50%. So the outcome of that study was that this device limited the effectiveness of the physical therapy. So unless you do this research and look into the science that's been published, you're not going to be told this by people who are selling devices. And this applies just as much, not just to devices, but to supplements, to a number of pharmaceuticals, to manual therapy, to surgery, the whole range of different pain treatments. A lot of the times, the research is not nearly as compelling as the people who are selling these things would have you believe. But let's go on.
You just turn it on, turn on the infrared, and then set the PEMF level. This is actually the same technology that Tony Robbins uses every day to get through his shoulder and back pain.
Well, Tony Robbins is no doubt a brilliant motivational speaker and motivational coach, but he has no formal medical training. In fact, his formal education ended after high school, and many of his larger group meetings involve walking on hot coals, which is something that has a limited scientific benefit as far as I've been able to tell. So he's not necessarily the most reliable endorser for a device like this. I would much prefer to see scientific evidence showing the benefits compared to a control group, as I described immediately prior. But it's always nice to have a celebrity endorser when you're trying to rack up sales of your device. Let's go on.
If you want to pick one up, you can save 15% using my link in the description.
Well, of course, he doesn't say anything about how much money he gets when you buy one of these things, and they cost in the neighborhood of $1,000. And we're not given any information about the longevity of the benefits from this device. How long does the treatment last? How long does the device itself last? We don't have any information about this. But let me come back to the fact that we actually do have a treatment for spine pain that is beneficial for the 88% of people with spine pain, where it's generated by the brain. And the treatment is called neuroplastic recovery therapy. Neuroplastic is a term that refers to the brain and nervous system. That's the neuro part. And the plastic part refers to the fact that the nervous system can change with appropriate care. And this form of treatment addresses nervous system regulation, and it tries also to give you a more comprehensive understanding of stresses that you may have had in your life, both past and present. And by doing this, we actually can change function of your brain, the processing of pain signals from the body, in a way that actually alleviates physical pain. And we know this because a randomized controlled trial was done with gold standard scientific research protocols, where they compared the neuroplastic recovery therapy on the one hand with not one but two control groups on the other hand in the Boulder back pain study. And the patients who had the neuroplastic recovery therapy got 2 sessions a week for 4 weeks, and their pain scores dropped by 75%. And then they were followed. They didn't get any more treatment. They were followed out for an additional 11 months, and their pain scores stayed down. And most recently, a 5-year follow-up has been published showing a small relapse of the pain, but these patients were still experiencing far less pain than suffering from initially. And in comparison with the 2 control groups, the group that got the neuroplastic recovery therapy had far less pain than the 2 control groups, one of which got a large injection into the spine and the other got their usual care. So yes, there actually is an effective pain treatment for back pain that we do absolutely want you to know about, that we have published in the prestigious journal JAMA Psychiatry in September of 2021, and that got national publicity from places like the Washington Post and CBS News, with much more research already published in this area across North America and more studies on the way. So by all means, look at our profile. None of us who are involved in this is gaining any financial reward from promoting these concepts.